Hello guys, this will be the second deck profile we do on this channel. Make sure you go back and watch the first one because I feel that this deck is a little bit more complex and the first video helps you get an idea of how Yu-Gi-Oh is played. With that being said, let's get into this deck profile. This is a ritual deck and I believe the foundation of this deck revolves around these three cards. Sonic Bird, which allows you to get a ritual spell card from your deck. Senju of 10,000 Hands, which allows you to get a monster card that is a ritual from your deck. And then Manjun of 10,000 Hands, which allows you to get both. Now, what are ritual cards, you might ask? Well, ritual cards are monster cards that you special summon through spell cards. And you have to tribute equal to their level. So, let's talk about some of my ritual monsters I have in this deck. We have Relinquish. His effect allows you to absorb an enemy's opposing monster pretty much. So right now his attack is at 0/0, right? Well, if I absorb, let's say, Manjun of 10,000 Hands, who has 1400 attack power, he gets the attack power of that card and the defense as well. And let's say I attack the Relinquish and kill him, right? The monster he absorbed dies first rather than him. So you have to kill him twice technically. But now let's get into the Mass Beast. The Mass Beast allows you to doesn't have any special effects. However, he has 3200 attack power and he's a nice to have in the field. Let's just leave it at that because he does a lot of damage. Now, Dark Master Zorak allows you to roll a 6-sided die. If he rolls a 1, you get a select to destroy one of your opponent's monsters. If you roll a 2, the same thing happens. If you roll a 3, 4, or 5, all of your opponent's monsters get destroyed, which is really nifty, and I think is a little overpowered, to be honest. And if you roll a 6, he kills himself, which is pretty annoying. And then, let's move on to Blackluster Soldier, which is probably one of the more famous Yu-Gi-Oh cards. He's kind of the same as Mass Beast, except he has a little bit less attack power. But I still think he's a useful card to have in the deck, and I like him a lot. Let's get into Demise, King of Armageddon, which was one of my favorite cards in this deck, because when he is summoned, you can pay 2,000 life points to destroy all cards on the field except for Demise, King of Armageddon. Now that's just a really nice effect, and you can activate it once per turn, so it's not like a one-time thing. And then you have Ruin, Queen of Oblivion, and she's a pretty nice card to have. Because what she does is if she destroys a monster, she can attack again, which is a very nice thing to have. Now with this whole ritual deck, it's all about like special summoning those monsters as quick as possible and just like, you know,
overwhelming your opponent.
Overwhelming your opponent and trying to like use those effects to your best of your ability. And I also ran an extra deck, which is something that we didn't do in the last deck profile, if I recall correctly. Now, these 4 cards aren't necessary to have in the deck, but I just like to have them. I'm not going to get into them right now because they're pretty irrelevant to this video. However, I will talk about this, why I believe is essential to having these ritual decks, because he's a fusion card. And what fusion cards do is you need to have a polymerization card, typically. And for that card in particular, you need Relinquish and freaking Thousand Eyes Idol. And when you have this card and any of these cards in your hand or on the field, you can activate this card to summon him. And his effect is the exact same thing as Relinquish, except when he's on the field, no other card can attack, including your own and including him. That's important to say, that no one else can attack besides him. And that makes it very helpful. Let's get back to rituals for a second. Something I forgot to mention was that all these ritual cards, the spells I forgot to mention was, so all these cards have separate spells you use to summon them. So Relinquish has Black Illusions Ritual. The Mass Beast has Curse of the Mass Beast. Dark Master Zorak has Contract with the Dark Master. Blackluster Soldier has Blackluster Ritual, pretty creative, huh? And Demise, King of Armageddon, and Ruin, King of Oblivion share the same ritual spell card, which is End of the World.
So that's where these 3 cards come in handy. Sonic Bird, Manjun of 10,000 Hands, and send you 10,000 hands. Because rather than run multiple copies of these ritual spell cards, depending if you have either monster in your hand or the spell card to ritual summon them, you can just use them to go through your deck and pull them out quickly, rather than having multiple copies in your deck and risk running a deck that's over 40 cards.
It's something that's worth noticing. Well, you might be wondering, what is this card? Now, this card is probably one of the most essential cards to have in your deck because it allows you to tribute from your deck and summon, you don't need these. So let's say I want to summon Rune Queen of Oblivion. All right, so let's say I want to summon her theoretically, right?
And you need End of the World typically. However, if you have advanced ritual art,
I can summon her without that ritual, which makes that card very essential. Now, something you might be wondering, right? And something that I believe is another essential in this deck is the recycle. Because once I activate, say, Advanced Ritual Art, it goes to my graveyard. And this deck, I don't run anything that allows me to bring it back to my hand or my deck, except for Recycle, which allows me to pay only 300 life points to send this back to the bottom of my deck. Now, it might be at the bottom, but that doesn't matter because I have this card and this card that can bring it back to my hand. And those are just some of the combos I can pull off with this deck. And I'm not going to get into all of them because in this video it would be a lot longer. But I feel this deck is very good. And even though some of these cards are very old school, like Blackluster Soldier is very old school. You hardly ever see them anymore. And Demonic Steel Armageddon is pretty old too. I feel like I've been able to compete with a lot of decks that are much more like modern.
Those meta decks out there.
Yes, and I know it's not going to compete against all of them because one of the biggest weaknesses of this deck is that sometimes it can get clogged up and you won't draw the cards you need, like Senju or Manjun or Sonic Bird, which are the cards you need to draw for this deck to be effective. Which is why I recommend running 3 Sonic Birds, 3 Manjun of 10,000 hands, and 3 Senjus. And the trap cards I recommend running are just your typical trap cards. So Mirror Force, Dust Tornado, I like to run Trap Jammer, Time Space Trap Hole, negates special summons. Black Horn of Heaven also negates special summons, and I like to use these cards because the people I duel against like to special summon. And then, yeah, all these cards are pretty typical to have in your deck. And there's also a few like ritual support spell cards, which I'm not going to get into. But like Ascending Soul is nice to have. A Wild Monster appears is nice to like just pretty much break the game almost. All these cards are very nice to have, but a lot of these aren't completely needed. But what you do need, no matter what, if you're going to make any ritual deck, are these 3 cards. That's why I say it's the foundation. But my overall rating for this deck is, sure, it may not be the most
Meta deck out there.
It's not the most meta deck, frankly. It's very old school, and I know it's, not too great. It's a little gimmicky. People say that to me sometimes, but I think it's a good deck. And I'll give it a solid like BA rating, and sometimes you can take it on an A deck in my opinion. I've seen it happen before with this deck. But with that being said, we're gonna end this video here. Our next deck profile is gonna be coming up tomorrow, and it's gonna be Knight of Zeros,
Blue Eyes White Dragon.
And that deck's gonna be a freaking crazy to review because that deck has much more stuff going on than just this one. So we're kind of going up a level. The first Magnet Warrior deck we did was pretty low tier. This one I feel is a little bit more complex, but it's not too hard to understand. But that Blue Eyes deck, it's has a lot of crazy stuff going on. Well, I'm gonna have to cut it there. See you guys in the next one.
Keep this nice, short, and to the point. Until next time, y'all.